If you're anxiously attached, you've probably been seeking to feel safe through others. This video is for people who want to find, develop a relationship with themselves so they stop spiraling, stop chasing reassurance, and start feeling grounded even when you're alone. I'm not a therapist, so I'm not here to diagnose anyone or assess anyone. But I've sat for thousands of hours across capable people who are performing, functioning, responsible, and self aware. And when things stop working, it's rarely about pushing harder, it's about stabilizing, it's about recognizing that the strategy that once created safety is now creating anxiety. And instead of doubling down on effort, we reorganize how we think about ourselves. And that's what this conversation is really about. First of all, let's get something straight. Anxious attachment is not a disorder and it's not a personality flaw. It's not that you're too much or too needy, and it's certainly not that you're broken. What's actually happening is how your identity is being organized. It means that at an early age, you learned that connection meant survival. And somewhere in your system, your nervous system encoded this belief. If I don't secure this relationship, I'm not safe. So you became hyper aware, hyper vigilant, hyper attuned. You learned to read tone shifts. You learn to anticipate distance. You learn to perform security before you even felt it. And that worked. It helped you survive. But now you wonder, why is it that I'm a responsible person, still competent, still performing? The harder I push, the more anxious it feels. That's because the strategy that you had that was creating that kind of conditions and situation, it's exhausting you. So this is not about fixing the attachment. It's about reorganizing how you rethink the situation and you think about yourself. And that starts with recognizing, kind of like an old song that keeps replaying in the background. Inside every anxious adult, there's what I call a little one, the triggered child state, the one who believes no one is coming to save me. I have to know everything to feel smart. If I'm not exceptional, I'll be abandoned. And when you're triggered, that part of you takes control. It may seem like you're overreacting in the current situation, but what you're actually doing is time traveling, because what you're reacting to is a memory. So then the first step we got to do is to establish a connection with yourself in the present moment. And that can start by naming your experience. Maybe you have, I don't know, what we can call like a nervous bee inside you, always buzzing, always proving, always scanning for feedback. Or maybe there's a dragon lady or dragon man, controlling, preemptive, and maybe quick to cut in. Those parts aren't enemies, they are protectors. But here's the key: you have to make a seat for them at the table. Otherwise, they have a way of sabotaging the meal. When you say, "Oh, that's the nervous bee activated," what's actually happening is that you're naming your experience. So you're creating, it's happening two things. You're creating distance to the judgment, but also you're opening a new possibility of how you understand the situation and yourself in it. And this creates authority because it moves you away from reaction to being the observer of the situation. And that's the beginning of your own sort of composed authority. One of the clearest patterns in anxious attachment is this: you check for validation instead of building the right relationship. You're constantly looking for signs, signals, green lights. You're constantly wondering, Are we good? Do you still value me? Am I doing enough? I don't know if this sounds familiar, but for me, I think it's in what I've seen in my clients, I think they call it something like, it's like when you feel like you're paddling underwater while trying to seem calm on the surface, or you seem like, or you feel like you're begging for crumbs of reassurance because really you don't know where you stand. But building relationship with yourself is actually radical. You stop asking others to determine your worth. You stop asking friends, managers, or even your partner. And instead, you become the guardian of your own castle. That means you decide what's acceptable, what aligns to your north star, what matters most to you. You know what is a yes to you or no. And when anxiety spikes, instead of asking, how can I feel safe with you? You ask, how am I already safe enough right now? You learn to, how can I recognize? Maybe more, it's like, how can I see right now that I am already safe enough? And that question alone reorganizes your identity, how you organize in the moment. Because now safety has become internal, not negotiated with others. And if you're listening and thinking to yourself, gosh, I'm a high performer, I'm capable, and it's just pushing harder is not offering the same results. This is exactly what I work with. So I'm leaving a link in the description for a private strategy call, because this isn't about effort. This is about how you recalibrate, how you relate with yourself. See, most people try to fix their sense of anxiety or that anxious attachment in their heads. They overthink, they analyze, they try to out strategize their fear. But anxiety lives in the body, and your body is your human instrument. And when it's dysregulated, your thoughts will vortex. So instead of trying to think your way out, pause, because this pause will lead you to possibility. Feel your sit bones on the chair, your feet on the floor. Breathe into your belly and just let the swirl be there, not to fix it, not to unscrew it, almost kind of like to wave at it. Oh, there's that tight chest again. Oh, there's that sweat, cold sweat again. Ah, there's that kind of like uncomfortable tingle. When you wave at a sensation or emotion, you're actually building tolerance or resilience. And this resilience builds trust. Your nervous system learns, oh, I can feel this and survive. And that's how you can create your own home base inside of yourself. If you took just one thing out of this whole conversation, I would ask you to remember this. Beliefs inform your behaviors, and behaviors validate your beliefs. Meaning, if you think a certain way, you're going to behave a certain way. And when you behave, when you do something in a particular way, it tends to kind of like a self-fulfilled prophecy. It tends to create a certain situation that affirms what you believe to begin with. So if you believe I'm not secure, you will behave in ways that tend to seek that security. And when you engage in those kind of behaviors, then those behaviors will validate, well, I I must not be secure on my own, or I won't be secure on my own. So that's why we need to update how your understanding of yourself and your context and your situation. First, return to reality. Anxious attachment lives either in future fear or past evaluation. But think about it. Reality is the safest place, or maybe safe enough. Why? Because this is what's happening. So, in this moment, you got to know what's happening in this moment, right now, in this moment. Is what I'm thinking is 100% true? What's your evidence? Check it. Are you in danger or are you uncomfortable? And knowing this distinction is key. Now, if you're in danger, oh my God, please move. Get out of there. Respond. That is the natural human response to save ourselves. Absolutely. But if you look in closely, most of the time, at least in our modern life, we're just feeling uncomfortable with the situation. So if you just stay for a little while and curious and investigate, you create this resilience and deeper trust in yourself and in your life. And this will define your North Star, not how you can be more productive, not about pleasing others, not about how can I be more or better, but you start reorganizing around what really matters for you. And maybe it has to do with growth or integrity or depth or peace or self respect. So when anxiety says, yeah, go ahead, send the third text. You ask yourself, is this aligned with my North Star? Or is this a threat response? That is self confidence. At its core, building a relationship with yourself, it's reparenting yourself. You become the steady presence your nervous system never had and was never able to internalize. In some ways, it's sort of like you become your own birth doula, kind of like your new identities are being born, the calm version, the secure version. And naturally, of course, there will be contractions, moments of doubt, moments where you, oh my God, you totally feel like a mess. Moments, yeah, maybe even they feel scary, you feel unstable, but you'll start feeling the shift as you develop this relationship with yourself and you work in that pause, you stay there just long enough. You'll notice that instead of saying, what's wrong with me? You start understanding and noticing, oh gosh, like this moment is uncomfortable. My system is under stress. Of course, I feel this way. Of course, it feels hard. Oh, I'm in this situation. It's a challenging conversation, or it's a high stakes meeting, or I really don't understand what's going on here. I don't know where I stand. I need a moment. Of course, between now and the moment is clear, it's going to feel uncomfortable. That is normal. And in that understanding, normalizing that starts regulating your experience and your relationship with yourself. It's like you're extending grace to yourself and your situation, and you're marrying your mind and your heart, and you start learning that you could be treading choppy waters, but you're still whole. That's what I mean about composed authority. Not cold, not detached, but steady. And if you want to learn more about how to focus on yourself and detach in silence, I just made a video about that, and I'll leave a link in the description. You don't find the healing in your anxious attachment because you found the perfect partner. It's reorganized by becoming the person that feels comfortable in their own skin. When you build relationship with yourself, you stop chasing, you stop spiraling, you stop outsourcing your worth. And ironically, that's when your relationships stabilize because you've become your home base. And if you feel like you've done everything right and you're not getting the answers you want and you're finding this useful, go ahead and like the video so this message reaches people like you, because you don't need to try harder. You need to come home to yourself, and that's the work.